Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
Welcome to Hustler's favorite weekend of the year. What's up, buddy? How you doing? Are you fired up for divisional round playoffs or what?
I am, and obviously most people know I'm a big Chiefs fan. Love the way the schedule works out with this early Saturday game. I can just get right to the Chiefs game. Hopefully they move on to the AFC Championship game and then take in as a fan and a bettor the final 3 games of the week. 4 great matchups, 8 awesome teams with different storylines. As I say, this is the best weekend. We got 2-2. Top 8 teams. Let's get to it.
We're gonna pick every game. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna and we've kind of changed the process a little bit. Usually, like the night before, you'll email me your picks and my picks in or my picks after. I know, and it worked. I mean, it clearly worked. Huss was 60% this year. I was 57% this year. We had a good year. Today, we're going to do it differently. We're going to go game by game and reveal them to each other as we break them down. And Huss, before we bring in Pat, and Pat Gregoire is going to join us here right off the top from Coolbet. And hey, if you're watching on the YouTube channel or you're watching on Twitter, you want to let us know what your favorite bet of the weekend is, feel free. We'll pass it along to some of the other Lock Shoppers here as well. Of course, Lock Shop brought to you by Coolbet. Huss, as you prep for this week, I was telling you before we started, I said I was flip-flop, like basically from like Tuesday. I kind of knew where I was probably be heading, and then I dive into a bit of it, listen to some podcasts, and they're trying to flip me. I'm like, I don't know if I should flip on a couple of these games or I should stick to my guns. I'm going to stick to my guns, but the more I dove into these, the more rattled I was getting. What was it like for you putting these bets together this week?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not far off. And the one thing that I've said over and over again is it's never been good to change picks late. I always find I seemingly go with my first instinct when we break the games down, and rarely does that change. Sometimes, and it happened to me earlier last week with that Seattle-San Francisco game, I got a little bit spooked about the weather report, and that went in, and, it really didn't materialize. So I think the basis, we know a lot about these teams. We've talked about them all year long. We know the way they looked last week. We know the teams that are on buys, what they're dealing with. I think you got to go down with how you are. Listen, there'll be some information that some people will take into consideration more than others. But at the end of the day, you got your feel on these games and you got to go. It's not like this is week 8 and we're diving in and learning more about them. We pretty much know what these teams are, the injury issues that some of them have, which certainly will figure into the picks on both sides, and also it figures into why the lines are what they are right now. But it is interesting, just before we get to Pat, we have not seen really much line movement at all this week, although I am seeing the Eagles number has gone from 7.5, where it's been all week long, to 8 right now. And that Chiefs number, which had been in between 8 and 8.5, is now at 9. But Bengals, Bills, 5.5. That's a little surprising based on our early conversation, but I think that has a lot to do with the Cincinnati offensive line. And all that steam that was on the Cowboys coming out of the Monday Nighter maybe has cooled a little bit, as the San Francisco 49ers are now 4-point favorites as we get into this.
All right, let's get into it. Pat Gregoire is here, and we'll find out how the week's been for him. Pat, have you locked in a bunch already? Are you waiting for a little bit? What's your approach been to the National Football League this weekend?
It's been a big time wait and see approach.
Yeah.
God, a lot of these lines super confusing. You mentioned the Bills one again. Maybe that's just my thinking and me being a Bills Mafia member and trying to put away all the pain that I've had throughout the years. But definitely surprising to see 67% of the money right now at Coolbet is on the Bills to cover. So I thought,
oh wow.
With that number, more people would be jumping on the Bengals to cover. But again, Coolbet, being in Canada, the Bills are a very public heavy team, so that's probably playing into the influence. But I was surprised. I definitely thought we'd see a lot more money coming in on Buffalo. And on that note, we might as well go through kind of where they handle lies right now. Huss, you'll be happy to hear this, man. 95% of the handle right now is on the Jags to cover. So fade the public, take that what you will. But a lot of people think that the Jags are going to keep this one close.
That's huge.
I have a hard time believing it, honestly, fellas. Like, I really do. I get it. The Jags are a nice story. That comeback was electric. But if they play even half as bad as they did in the first half, like, the Chiefs are going to bury them. They're going to absolutely bury him. Andy Reid's record off the bye is insane, absolutely insane. And I know the Chiefs have struggled to cover big numbers this year, but it's playoffs. This is where they flip the switch, and it's a different team. They're playing with their food during the regular season. Like, it's like, okay, now we go. And I think this is an opportunity where they're going to go. And I honestly think they're going to really have their way with the Jags. I don't see this one being close. Next up, this one's probably the closest. The Giants with 59% for them to cover. I've already mentioned the Bills. And then the last one, again, another public team. So take this with a grain of salt. 86% for the Cowboys to cover.
Even on a short number like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that makes me feel, really good about my best bet. I really like the 49ers -4.5. I played it at -3.5 earlier this week. That was the only one that I did lock in. I would still play it up to 4. I'd probably play it up to, under a touchdown. Kyle Shanahan's 6-1 against the spread in the playoffs as a head coach. That one loss was, in the Super Bowl, pretty big game. But for me, the Cowboys, it's not what we saw last week's not going to happen again. They're playing a much, much better team. That Bucs team stinks. They're not, like you guys said.
They're not a playoff team. The Bucs were not a playoff team.
They are in the playoffs, but that doesn't make them a playoff caliber team. It's as simple as that. And it was so apparent that there was such a gap. And I think there is also an even bigger gap between what the Cowboys are and what the 49ers are. I just do not see Dak Prescott and that offense having their way with that 49ers defense. The 49ers defense is unbelievable. And I know Brock Purdy, a little bit concerning. When does, the glass slipper fall off his shoe? I don't think it's here. I really don't. I think he has a good enough supporting cast on his offense, and I think the defense is good enough to kind of hold things down.
It is really interesting that you mentioned those handles on both the Jaguars and the Giants, considering what's happened to the lines.
Yeah.
Like, usually you'll see an avalanche of money coming on one side and, the line will move a little bit. Well, this is still now Kansas City at -9. And now the Philadelphia Eagles are 8-point favorites. And then obviously you mentioned Dallas. I do get the Dallas steam coming out of Monday night. There's always recency bias. And credit where credit is due. I mean, I was on Dallas, but I was very, very skeptical as to what we were going to get from the quarterback position. I didn't think Tom Brady was going to turn into Tom Brady circa 2007, but I wasn't sure we were going to see that Dak Prescott. And, credit where credit is due. He had a monster game right now. But I'm sort of with you, Pat. If the Dallas Cowboys are going to never cover this game, never mind win this game, we're going to need to have a Dak Prescott that is what we saw on Monday and maybe even better because of waiting. Although there has been a few chinks in the Niners' armor when it comes to the secondary lately. And certainly that's something that I think Cowboy fans and Cowboy bettors are holding on that will continue come Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, it's for me again. I think if I'm making a play for any of the Sunday games, I'm waiting until Saturday night, Sunday morning. At this rate, maybe if you want to lock in some of those numbers, if you think there are going to be some line movement, but you said it already, Hus. We really haven't seen much line movement, so I think this is going to be pretty close to what we see come kickoff. If you are a little bit cowardly, to take a page out of our friend JD Bunkus, I really, really like Eagles -1.5 and Chiefs -2.5 and -130. You can get that on a tease. So if you tease that down by 6.5 points, or if you want to just go to 6 and get the flat number, I know that's not as generous to us bettors, but at least you'll get a better price at -120. But I don't think you need the tease. Maybe you use it as a little bit of insurance. In the Giants game, though, I think I would certainly like it. In the Chiefs game, I really don't. I really, really don't think you need to buy those points. Like, there's just no way. There's just simply no way. Like, that secondary for the Jaguars scares me against Mahomes, and just I don't know. I don't think this is where they continue to not play at that peak playoff performance. Like, I think this is where the real season starts for the Chiefs.
I'm just so happy that we're talking about this weekend. This is very exciting. I just enjoy sitting here talking about these games and how we're going to approach it. Thanks, Pat. Thanks for popping by, buddy. Thanks for giving us those numbers, man. I appreciate that.
I'd be excited too if I was Dusty, who was, what were you, 12-1 in the playoffs last year?
I was 12-1 last year against the spread, and I started 5-1 this year. So I'm due for a bad week here. So we'll see.
Playoff whisperer here. That's why I didn't want to know his picks beforehand. I need to lock in with my own. I've already locked them in on the site. The money has been put down, so I can't be swayed by what the swarming of the postseason has for us coming up.
See, Dusty's he's just like the Chiefs. He's playing with his food, not really taking things serious during the regular season, and then boom, flips that switch, and it's just absolute beast mode come playoff time. So,
hey, Pat, I'd also like to thank you for not coming in hot and roasting me on the hockey game last night right out of the gate.
Oh yeah. What happened in that game last night?
Austin Matthews happened last night. Man, that was tell you what, that was a really fun game to watch. And I mean, I can't even sit there and say that the Jets played bad. They made a few really bad mistakes, and man, did Austin Matthews make them pay for it. And, it was taking me back to Doha with Jake, hearing about how great the Leafs goaltending is all the time. And I'm like, oh, here we go. And then in the ultimate of ironies, Samsonov outduels Hellebuck last night. He was absolutely brilliant. But tell you what, I could use a couple more matchups between those two teams. That was a really, really fun game last night. And obviously it went your way. But shout out to everyone that rode with you and Jake on the exclusive, because that one came in.
Thank you.
The Jets one didn't. Just speaking of exclusives, what do you anticipate having? We're going to cook up a parlay that we'll get on after the fact, because we haven't gone through our picks yet, but
we're going to have to do our picks and then work together, come to terms on a parlay. Unless, of course, we're on the same 4 games, then it'll be easy to put together. But what do you guys got?
Well, right now, the only thing that we do have live is JD's Cowards Parlay. He has
what's he doing this week?
So here he's got a play for Saturday, a play for Sunday, and then I think what we're going to do is mash those two babies together and make like an ultimate mega Cowards Parlay. But right now he's got the Chiefs -4.5, and then the Giants plus 14.5. You can get that at plus 110, which I really like that one. And then the other one is Bengals plus 10.5, and then 49ers money line plus 125.
I like them both. Merge them all together. Let's get the ultimate Cowards Parlay.
Exactly. So, but we're going to have a ton of different exclusives. We'll have your guys' partner parlay as well. I think Jake and myself might put something together. I'll probably have a Patty's pick parlay, although the quarterback play starts to get a little bit better as it goes deeper. But a couple of those quarterbacks like to throw some picks. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Dak and Lawrence on a Patty's pick parlay at some point.
Yeah, well, we'll put together the Lock Shop partner parlay first and foremost, and then with it being such a big weekend, maybe fire you over a couple other ideas that you can put in courtesy of us in the old Coolbet exclusive section.
Absolutely. I know, and I know, not all the props are up right now. The touchdown scorers are.
Okay.
McKinnon at even money, I think, is an absolute lock, like a no-brainer. Like
he's been
automatic. It's been automatic. I've been riding it for the last 3 weeks, and it's just like it's stupid how good it's been. So I'm shocked to see it at -110. So I'm going to be locking that one in as soon as I hit the off button here. And I would be surprised, as the way that the lock shoppers work, they'll probably be doing the same, and the line's going to move. So
quickly, as far as touchdown scores go, Hus, I hit this earlier in the year. Boston Scott has scored a touchdown in every game that he's ever played against your Giants. 8 games. He's had a touchdown in every single one of them, 10 total. We hit that in that last game that they played. I don't know if you can keep that streak going, but check out the value on it and see what it's at, because That's a
Plus
weird.
250.
That's a weird stat.
Plus 250. You'd be crazy not to keep riding the hot.
Yeah, and it was like plus. I think it was like plus 300 or 400 last time. So yeah, it's come down a bit. Yeah,
because the guy barely plays and he's barely significant.
I know. He just scores touchdowns against the Giants.
It happens every time.
It's wild. All right, Patty. Well, thanks for that, buddy. Anything else before we let you go?
I was just going to say that game might be some sort of bet builder where you're hammering some Hurts and Danny Dimes or Vanilla Vic rushing and touchdown rushing props, because that's going to be a wild game. I think that one, obviously, myself being a Bills fan, I've got that one circled. That'll be a little more stressful, but the game I think I'm looking forward to watch the most is that Eagles-Giants game. I'm really looking forward to that one.
All right, man. Well, enjoy it all. We'll break it down on Monday, all right?
We will. Take care, boys. Good luck this weekend.
There you go. That's Pat Gregoire joining us from Coolbet, where, of course, wherever you hear us talking about the odds and the lines and the totals and the spreads and all that stuff, find them all at Coolbet. Sign up for an account today. Use the code LOCKSHOP when you do, and you'll get a 100% deposit bonus if you're not yet signed up, and that'll be up to $200. So you deposit $200, you get another $200, so you have $400 total. And I'm ready. Hus, you ready to dive? I like these mystery picks. Very interested to see where we go. And we're going to start with your guys, right? Chiefs and Jags.
Yeah, you know what? I'll start off on this one. And, Pat sort of laid this out. The Chiefs at times this year have been, and I love the term, playing with their food. We think about the Texans game where they put up 500 yards of offense and it still somehow goes to overtime. The loss to the Colts earlier this year was somewhat like you go, how the hell did that happen?
Yeah.
And often, and listen, this does go back to the AFC Championship game last year where it seemed like the Chiefs were throttling the Cincinnati Bengals. They were up 21-3, and we know how that one ended out. I just have to keep going back to the fact that this has happened to the Chiefs before. They have had some close calls, and they've lost the biggest game in the last couple of years when they should have already put a team away. I really think that's going to be a focus of the Chiefs going into this game right now. And Pat laid it out. I mean, there's no one better coming off a bye than Andy Reid, straight up, and certainly against the spread. And when I think about the Jags, I understand why there's a lot of steam on them. I understand why there's a lot of people taking the points because they are a good team. They can score. They got a ton of momentum coming out of last week.
Yes, they do.
But they've basically played their Super Bowl 2 weeks in a row. They got by with one against Tennessee on the back of their defense, and I thought that really was going to help them going into the Charger game. It didn't help them until the second half, and they had their backs against the wall. But, I mean, man, they're moving up a couple weight classes. They are going into the loudest building in the National Football League. They're doing it with far less rest than their opponent. And I think Patrick Mahomes and this team is ready to show what they are ready to do on the in playoffs. This is not my strongest play of the others, but I'm going to take the Chiefs. I locked them in at -8.5 yesterday. It's at 9 right now. But as I said, you can tease that. But as I say, I'm in on the Chiefs at -8.5. Would have loved it to be a little bit lower. I thought there might be a little more public juice on the Jags. But as we hear where the money has already come from, that also tells me that the public can bet as much as they want on the Jags. This number isn't moving. And if anything, it's going the other way. So to be honest, that maybe makes me feel a little bit better that the Chiefs will not only win this game, but actually cover a spread for a change, because that's not something that they've been great doing, even with a great season that they had winning all those games.
I figured you're going to be on the Chiefs -8.5. I'm gonna go head to head with you on this one. I'm going to be on Jacksonville plus the 9 that it's currently sitting at here. And you are. I mean, you make some valid points. I mean, they have played their Super Bowl. You say they played the Super Bowl last 2 weeks. They played the Super Bowl last 6 weeks in a row, buddy. The Jags have won 6 in a row. They had to basically play a Super Bowl of their own every single week just to get into the playoffs. So they've won 6 in a row, but they've also won 8 of their last 10. Like, they've been a pretty good football team in the second half of the season. Their only 2 losses in their last 10 games were to arguably the 2 best teams in the league, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Detroit Lions. Those are the only 2 games that they lost in their last 10. So, I mean, those are 2 pretty good teams that they lost to. A couple of trends here. And Andy Reid is a phenomenal coach. This is not some shade here, but Doug Peterson's a really good coach as well. In the playoffs as a dog, Peterson is 6-0 against the spread as a dog. And how about this? As a dog, Peterson's 5-1 straight up. Just straight up winning those games as a dog. So this guy has found a way to get it done. They've got offensive weapons. Now, they don't have Travis Kelce, but Evan Ingram has been phenomenal for them. They've got Christian Kirk. They've got Jones, Travis Etienne, and of course there's Trevor Lawrence. I mean, the fact that Trevor Lawrence did what he did in the second half last year after the spot that he was put in, you could make a case that at that point, that game, even if they lose that game, it's still a successful season for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Like, they made the playoffs and lost to Justin Herbert and the Chargers. Instead, they stormed back, and what they've done for the last month and a half is found a way to get exactly what they had to have, and that was to win the football game. So I'm going to put some respect on what they did accomplish down the stretch. And I do feel like if I do get this cover at 9, it's a backdoor cover late. Like, I could see Kansas City cruising along by 15 most of this game, and then Trevor Lawrence leads a drive late when maybe Kansas City's eased up a little bit. So it's a big number. This team has been very good down the stretch. They've got an excellent head coach who's won it all in the past, and they've got a quarterback who has never lost on Saturday in his life. He's not going to win, but he's going to cover. So I'm going to take the Jags +9. I don't know if you've been listening to my show this week, but I am fully invested in Trevor Lawrence moving forward. I have purchased probably 80 of his rookie cards in the last 5 days. Like, I'm fully invested. I've got like 14 Prism rookies on the way right now of Trevor Lawrence. I'm like, that's it. This guy's going to win a couple MVPs. I'm on board with Trevor Lawrence. So I can't sit here all week on my radio show and say, oh, this is the guy, and then take him to lose by, more than 9 points this week. So I'm going to take the Jags at +9 and see if I can keep this good playoff run going, buddy.
Yeah, well, I like it. It's an interesting start. Big Maple Sports Cards is saying Mahomes over INTs. I don't like that pick, Big Maple Sports Cards. And,
did Mahomes throw 3 against the Jags earlier in the season? I think, didn't he have a game where he threw I'm going to double check on that game. I want to see that game because I was listening to a pod yesterday that laid it out, that they got some pressure to him. I'm going to double check the stats right now.
It was another one of those games where the Chiefs sort of were running with it, and then... Oh, no,
it was 4 touchdowns and 1 interception. A couple of turnovers, I think, in that game, but he had 1 pick,
It's just an average afternoon for Mahomes. And Marshall Caron, what up, Marsh? KC cover, LOL. I lost too many bets that way. There's a lot of people that feel that same way. Interesting way to start things off. All right, let's get to the second game on Saturday, Dusty. And I'll let you lead off with that one. It's the Giants and the Eagles. And I guess depending on where you're betted at, 7.5, or it is now 8 if you're liking the Giants. What do you think?
I told you before we got going today, I said there was a few games that I was flip-flopping on. And earlier in the week, I thought, I'm taking the Giants. I'm going to roll with the Giants here. And then last night, this morning, a little bit, I was like, if Jalen Hurts is 100% healthy, they should be able to run the ball all over the Giants. But then the Giants kind of swung me back around because basically since week 14, the Giants defense has been significantly better than it was in the first 3 or 4 months of the season. So I can't use the win over the Vikings to hype them up too much because I thought the Vikings were overrated the entire year. So I don't know how impressive that victory is, but this could be a game where the Eagles should be able to run the ball with relative ease, and the Giants should be able to run the ball as well because they got a great 1-2 punch with Saquon Barkley and Danny Dimes. And if this game is eventually going to be won on the ground, then I like them to be able to keep it within 8. Also, Daniel Jones, and this includes time pre-Dable, 17-5 against the spread on the road, which is nice to see. I found this to be an interesting trend as well. This is kind of stretching a little bit, but since 2017, the underdogs in a playoff game against a divisional rival that is their 3rd game of the year against them are 9-3-1 against the spread. So the dog has managed to get it done on a number of those occasions. And look, I know Hurts has come off the injury report and stuff, but that shoulder's not going to be 100%. So I do think there's that factor in there. They changed the game a little bit with him. Does he end up getting hurt and getting knocked out here again? So there's some factors that kind of tie into this. I'm a little concerned about what Daniel Jones can do through the air against the Eagles secondary, but I think both teams are going to run the ball. I think both teams will be able to run the ball. I think because of that, it might be a little bit of a more ball control game, which should help with a spread that's 8 points. So I'm going to hop on the Giants here, +8. They've kind of won me over, man. I like what they're doing there offensively, and I think Jones is starting to settle into that offense a little bit. So Eagles are an outstanding team. I just think 8's a pretty big number in the playoffs.
I am with you. I have never wavered on the Giants all week, and I think they might win this game.
Oh, wow.
I think they might win this game, not cover the spread, win. I've maybe been more skeptical than a lot of others on Philly throughout the year. And I'm especially part of me just thinks that the Philadelphia Eagles peaked real early in the season. And now they're dealing with some of those injuries. And I know they're thinking that Lane Johnson's going to be back. And again, a big part of it is Jalen Hurts. But what is the level of Hurts? And on the other side of things, I think the Giants are playing their best football of the entire season right now. I was so impressed with what they did. And again, I know Minnesota's defense has sucked all year, but man, the combination of their running game, Daniel Jones ran the ball 17 times in that game. Philly's going to need to be ready for that. And if that is the case, I know they've got a lot of no-name receivers there in blue, but I'll tell you what, those guys got the job done. And Daniel Jones, I mean, he's also playing for a contract too. Let's not forget about that.
Huge game for him.
But it comes down to it. You nailed it. You have these teams playing each other for the third time this season. And of course, these two teams met in a game that did matter for Philly in week 18. And that was a 22-16 game, in a game where the Giants weren't really even playing any of their guys. I think this is a lot closer than a lot of people think. I think this is going to be a tight game. Bottom line is I love the Giants at +8. And as I said, I would not at all be surprised if the Giants actually won this game in an upset. I think of all the teams that are the underdogs this week, I think I give them the best chance of actually going out and not just covering, but pulling off the upset. So I'm definitely taking the 8 points on the Giants, which brings us to Sunday and the game we've all been waiting for, Cincinnati and Buffalo. This spread is at 5.5 right now. I said earlier in the week when it was at 4.5, I thought it would get closer to 3 or 3.5 by game time, and it's done the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Pat had said that there's a ton of money on the Bills, and I do get it. But again, and this maybe makes me a little bit more nervous for the pick that I'm about to drop, you would have thought that would have maybe moved the line closer to 3.5 or 4. It's pretty clear that the bookmakers believe that the Bills are the better team and are not just a 3 and a 3.5 point favorite. They're into that zone. I don't think this gets to 6, but considering where it's been all week, I don't think it's going to come down to 4.5 or 4. So Cincinnati at +5.5 has got to be where you go. Now, listen, their offensive line has been decimated. They got a third stringer in there. Their tackles are out, and that is very, very problematic. The one thing I'll say is that the Buffalo pass rush is nothing like it was when Von Miller was healthy. And it is going to be stressful on the Bengals. And I think, their coach is going to definitely need to game plan to try to get the ball out of Joe Burrow's hands and to try to do something to establish a run game, which could be very difficult. But I just keep coming back to Joe Burrow. And he has existed in the National Football League under duress from the second he got under center.
He was born in this darkness, Hus.
Well, and exactly. And he has thrived. He's an incredible playoff performer. And I think he and a lot of the Bengals feel that they have been overlooked throughout this entire process, dating back to the Damar Hamlin issue. I do think that there'll be a massive emotional push. I mean, if Hamlin comes out of the tunnel with those guys at the start, I mean, maybe we'll have some magic like we saw in that game when, against the Dolphins. But I keep coming back. I just think there's just way too many points. I think Cincinnati is in this game. I can't see Joe Burrow getting run out of the building. And here's the other thing. I think Josh Allen has, listen, he throws the best deep ball in football. But right now, that is it. And, he had that injury earlier on. Since then, the turnovers have spiked. And I'll tell you what, if you turn the football over against the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow is going to make you pay. I think this is going to be an awesome game. I think it's close. I'm on Cincinnati plus 5.5.
I can't believe this number is still sitting at 5.5 as we make our picks here today, buddy. I think it's disrespectful to the Bengals that they're a 5.5 point dog going up against the Buffalo Bills. That game that got canceled, Cincinnati was a 1 point favorite at home in that game when it closed, like when kickoff. Now they're a 5.5 underdog on the road. I think they played better recently than the Bills have. I mean, I don't think they've lost a game in 7 weeks or something like that. You mentioned one thing. Josh Allen's got a great deep ball. And, a big play or two to Diggs or Davis or whatever is going to make a difference. Cincinnati, their secondary allows the lowest pass completion percentage in the entire league at 58.9%. Like, these guys knock down balls. They're 11th in the league in takeaways as a defense. And to me, that doesn't sound good for Bills fans who've had a quarterback that has turnover issues lately. So I think that's going to factor into this as well. And look, who do you have more faith in at quarterback right now? Joe Burrow or Josh Allen? Joe Burrow has done this. Like, I don't have much faith. I have faith in Josh Allen, but not the same level as Joe Burrow. And then with the way these two teams have played lately, you break down the positions, running back, wide receivers, defense right now. I honestly believe the only advantage in this game for the Bills is home field advantage. I think you can make a case that the Bengals are a better football team in every other aspect of the game. So for them to be 5.5 point dogs here, man, I'm just going to say thank you very much. I'm going to take it. I think Cincy can win this football game. I wouldn't even be surprised if they do, so that we're still getting it at 5.5, man. I couldn't do it. I could not do it. Unless this got to a field goal or less, I would not be on the Bills. So I'm on Cincinnati here plus 5.5.
I mean, the one thing I'll say, especially with the injuries, I do think the Bills have a significant advantage on the line of scrimmage when it comes to the offensive lines. That being said, I'm just not sure Buffalo right now has the personnel to take advantage like maybe a top team with an elite pass rush would against what's left of the Bengals offensive line. And as I said, there's no one that's had more practice playing behind a shitty line than Joe Burrow over his career. And all the guy does is get things done. So with you on Cincinnati on that one, which brings us to the Cowboys and the 49ers. This game's sitting at 4 right now. Dusty, take it away. What do you think for the grand finale?
Yeah. I was on the Niners earlier in the week. I still am. I'm not going to change that pick. Seeing some things throughout the week about the Niners have kind of made me hesitate a little bit. But this is a team that has won 11 in a row. Now, Purdy, I will say, and they've scored since, where is it? I got it in my notes here. Since November 27th, the Niners have only scored less than 33 points once. Like, their offense, now they haven't played a defense like the Dallas Cowboys. I will give them credit on that front. But you've got Christian McCaffrey, who's completely taken this offense to another level. Brandon Ayuk, Debo, George Kittle. Purdy doesn't need to be brilliant. He just needs to get those guys the ball. I think he'll be able to get them the ball against this Dallas defense. The Niners defense is just as good, if not better, than Dallas's defense, in my opinion here as well. And I think that this number is just way too much on watching what they did to the Bucs. And the Bucs are shit. The Bucs were shit all year. You can't tell me that Dak Prescott is going to look remotely close to as good as he was against the Bucs to when he has to go up against this Niners defense. So I'm going to be on the Niners here, minus the points. What's it at? 3.5. And then a couple other things here. Like the Niners, and they've been winning these games, and they haven't been a bunch of juggernauts, but they've beaten some good teams at this 11-game stretch. They also haven't had to travel, man. They went to like Seattle, Vegas, and Arizona in the last 2.5, 3 months. The Niners have been chilling back at home for basically all of December and January and a good chunk of November outside of a quick trip up the coast. You got the Cowboys who are playing their 5th road game in the last 6 weeks and are on 2 days less rest. So I'm sorry. If your only case here is Dak looked good against the Bucs, you don't have a case. So I'm on the Niners -3.5.
Yeah, may I also introduce to the court Kyle Shanahan versus Mike McCarthy? And to me, that might be the biggest mismatch in any of these playoff games right now. Listen, I've been talking about the Niners. I mean, ever since the Chiefs went in and ripped them up in San Francisco, they have looked like, frankly, they've looked like the best team in football more often than not. I mean, they have been thrashing teams. They're elite on the defensive side of the football. Although I will say there has been a few kinks in the armor in the secondary. But man, I mean, I think when you look at what Nick Bosa and the guys up front are bringing, and then now that Deebo Samuel's back, I mean, Purdy was winning games without Deebo. They've got George Kittle back as a big part of the offense. Christian McCaffrey, we all know what he can do. And now you have a weapon like Deebo Samuel. And listen, it's the mastermind of Shanahan behind it all that's setting up this offense. I actually love the Dallas defense. I've been really impressed with what they've done so far this year. I just think that this is it is a coaching mismatch. I think all of the intangibles and the advantages that you just mentioned with rest, with timing, where the game is, all is in the favor of the Niners. And yeah, it was. I jumped on that at 3.5. It's 4 right now. I think I'd still feel fine at 4, but man, it was nice to get that extra half point because I really do think that this game should have been about a 6-point spread. So I think we're getting nice value with the number right now as to where the number should be and what it is right now. So that's interesting. So we like the Giants, we like Cincy, and we like San Francisco.
Yeah, I'm thinking here for a partner parlay. If we move these a bit, what if we took like a 2-point teaser? So took San Francisco down to 1.5, moved Cincy up to 7.5, and took the Giants to 10. Or do you want more than that? What do you think? What should we do here for a partner parlay?
Well, I'll be honest. I think I'd be fine if we just went. Listen, if we wanted to take the Giants to 10,
okay,
and Cincy to 7, or I guess we could do 2 points to 7.5.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know if we need to hit that 9, but hey, if San Francisco was -2.5 and we just get it on the other side of the field goal,
so 2.5, okay.
Or I'd be fine at just putting these 3 picks together as we pick them at those numbers. Because as I say, I feel pretty good about all 3 of those. I was humming and hawing on the Chiefs, and obviously there's a lot of personal bias involved. So I'm sort of happy that one isn't going to be part of the picks. But I do like that. I guess we could find out what the options are from the guys at Coolbet as to what the numbers would be. But I'm
looking right now because they've got a bunch of the numbers up. So I've pumped this in, and then we get a boost. If we go Niners down to 2.5, and then the Bengals at +7.5, and the Giants +10, it would be +379, which I think would probably be boosted to 4 or the other side of 4. By our partners over at Coolbet. So I don't hate that. It gives us a little bit of room, right?
What's our Niner number in that scenario?
It's 2.5.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You know what? And get that on the other side of 4. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. So Niners -2.5, Bengals +7.5, Giants +10 is +379. And I would assume, I mean, if the boys are watching, they can text me if they can get in. We're going to wrap here right away. But I'm assuming that'll be 4 more, right? Which is a pretty good number. So,
yeah. No, they've been very good to the Lock Shop Partner Parlay throughout the year.
Let's do it then.
So I think we'll be starting with the 4. And, it gets us over a couple of real key numbers. I mean, getting more than a converted touchdown on the Bengals, I love that number. If you just want to bet it by itself right now, it's -147. Giants +10 is -133 if you want to bet that separately. And funny enough, just the 1-point move is where you actually have to pay the most. Niners -2.5 is -159 right now. So yeah, let's slap those together, see what Uncle Patty can do for us when he fires up the number, and then we'll have that live locked and loaded in the Coolbet exclusives coming up. And I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to probably go in and maybe do a single gamer for the Chiefs game, and I might do one for the Niners game as well. We'll Probably
Like
each
just a
throw
bet
couple
builder?
of over there. And then exactly a little bit of
Yeah.
a mini bet builder that they can put up on the exclusive, maybe give us a little bit better of a number like they always do for that partner parlay.
All right. So if you subscribe to the theory, when Hus and Nielsen agree, it's a bet for me. We're on 3 of the same games this week. The only game we're going to head on is your guy, Patrick Mahomes, versus my guy, Trevor Lawrence, plus 9 points. And you know what? I'll tell you, if they cover this week, there's going to be a few more funds at the account to purchase even more Trevor Lawrence rookie cards. So the eBay account will get fired up a little bit more. I like that.
We're getting ready. I'm about to bring it out. Got to find out where I'm going to be next week. Is it Atlanta? Is it Kansas City? We'll find out. But I can't sleep on the Jags. They've been an awesome story this year. I am a big Lawrence fan. I think Doug Peterson's been awesome. And it's going to be a great
tough
way to
spot
get
to
things
be in,
going
though.
tomorrow.
Yeah. Can't wait. It's going to be awesome. Best of luck, everybody, this weekend. Hus, I'll be texting you, buddy, and we'll be back on Monday to break it all down. That's going to do it for another episode of The Lock Shop, brought to you by Coolbet. Best of luck for your Chiefs, Hus, to win, but not cover, and we'll talk to you on Monday.
Hey, thanks a lot. Everyone enjoy the weekend. And again, later on this afternoon, get over into the Coolbet exclusives, and that Lock Shop Partner Parlay should be up and good to go. You know we'll be riding with it. Come on with us.